All right, welcome back. This is still the POLITY live from Abuja. Right now, we have some guests in the house here to speak on the aftermath of the subsidy removal and also about the first week of President Tinubu's time in office. I have to my left Mr. Lucky Obiyan. He's the President, African Emancipation Movement for Good Governance. He's also a former House of Reps candidate. And to my right, I have Honorable Nwisabari, I hope I got that correctly, Bani, the Chairman, National Youth Council, Rivers State. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you
Welcome.
very much.
All right, first I'd just like to get your thoughts. This is the first time I'm having you on the program since the announcement. What are your thoughts on the removal? I'll start with you, Honorable Bani. What is the aftermath that we're seeing right now, and what do you think is the way forward?
Well, thank you very much for having me here. And I also want to welcome our guests, artists over our guest, my fellow guests over here. I think the issue of subsidy is a very clear issue. Looking at the activities before the general elections, it is noticeable that the top 3 or top 4 presidential candidates actually brought these things as part of their projects or part of their policies that they are going to implement upon assumption in office. The PDP candidate, the APC candidate, and most importantly, the Labour Party candidate, they all stress on the need for subsidy removal. And it's very crystal clear to Nigerians that subsidy is an organized crime. Everybody in Nigeria is waiting for a perfect time when subsidy could be perfectly removed, such that it does not have overbearing on the citizens. Now, what we are having here today is not that Nigerians are not happy that the process is ongoing or the process has kick-started. The concern of Nigerians is the ripple effect that this thing has had on the economy and the general well-being of the people. Now, we expected that before this will be done, there are some things that should be put in place to curb the effect on the people. And when these things are not done appropriately, the Nigerians becomes very worried. It's not that they don't want these things to be removed. We're interested. If you have communication as a youth leader in my state and a PRO Germans from Nigeria, we interact with youths every day. And we know their pulse, we know their feelings, and we know their take on these issues. They are not against it, but their concern is the complacent attitude of the government to put things in place to mitigate the hardship, the cushion effect that this removal of subsidy is going to cause the people. Believe you me, many people can no longer go to work. Many people are going to drop out of work because of distance, transportation, and what have you. What's the cost of food? We cannot even discuss that. And it's going to be transportation and rest of it. The surge in all of these sectors is currently affecting the well-being of Nigerians. Even when the minimum wage have not been properly implemented across the nation, there are things that need to be put in place. Our refineries, or even giving licenses to people to go and build their modular refineries. These are the things that, some of the things that would have been done to cushion the effect. And now we are in the situation. What will the government have to do to put things straight? Because we are not going to continue like this. Then the crisis is just booming and just starting. It's better that things would have been put in place, organized properly. There are processes that people have to go through for certain laws to be implemented because of the devastating effect that it's going to have on the micro and the macro economy. So I think that's the issue.
It's good to hear from you. I'll get back to you on your specific region, being an oil producing state, and what's happening there. But before that, let's bring in Honorable Lucky here. What are your thoughts? I believe you had the press conference the other day, your body and others, speaking on this particular issue. Has that changed now, some days after? What are your thoughts now on this policy that was brought in just as the president was inaugurated?
Yeah, thank you very much, Amadin. It's good to be here again.
It's good to
thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
The truth of the matter is that, like my colleague here in the studio rightly said, that subsidy itself, it's an organized crime by some cartels. I will take you through memory lane a bit. In 2002, there was a report by the Interpol to the Nigerian government that if the systemic corruption that is happening within the oil sector is not checkmated, that they fear for Nigeria that it will get to a time that this gang of cartels will take over almost all the institutions of government in this country. The government of the day as at that time is 21 years ago. The government of the day as at that time jettisoned that report, ignored the report, and what we are having today is a completion of that prediction. These oil cartels have succeeded in taking over the INEC as an institution. They have almost destroyed the entire judiciary. They've taken over the security apparatus of this country and what have you. Now, looking at oil subsidy, there wasn't anything called oil subsidy. Nigerians were not paying cash for oil subsidy. What we had was that at the port of landing, we have exchange and we have the proofs to back up our claim. What happens there is an exchange of crude oil, a swap of crude oil to already refined products that lands in the sea. The equivalent cost of that crude is what is being exchanged. Now the big question is, who do we pay? The government over the years, who do they actually pay this subsidy to? Nobody. What are they paying for? The three presidential top candidates prior to the election, yes, they came on air, they told Nigerians that they were going to remove subsidy. Peter Obi of Labour Party, Tinubu of APC, and Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. They all said the same thing. But there is a clause. And what is the clause? The conditionality, the methodology upon which you are going to remove the subsidy. That is where the difference comes in. The current president of the country, what he did during his inaugural speech was a clear demonstration of arrogance of power. You don't make such statements. It's a good thing, it's a welcome development that subsidy has been removed. We celebrate him in that instance. But the efficacy of that abrupt removal, the Nigerian people are bearing the brunt. As I speak to you right now, Nigerians can no longer, like he said, go to work. Some states have introduced palliative measure in trying to reduce the number of working days for civil servants. Like in Edo State, I think they are already proposing 3 days. Kwara have started it already, 3 days for civil servants to go to work and all of that. Why not announce the palliative measure before talking about the removal of subsidy? The presidential statement is so powerful that the moment he made that declaration during his inaugural speech, it began to spread like Hamatan fire. And this is the effect you are beginning to see. Let me put this on record as well. For you to know that subsidy actually is a crime against the Nigerian people. Countries like Cameroon, countries like Ghana, countries like Togo, Benin Republic, where these oils are being smuggled to on a subsidized basis. We were actually subsidizing for the entire West Africa. As I speak to you, there is a protest going on in Cameroon in regards to this subsidy removal. They are even criticizing the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu because they are already feeling the heat of it. It's a beautiful decision that he made. But what do you have for the Nigerian people? That is the question. And I also want to put this on record that $2.8 billion was used to purchase share from Dangote refinery on behalf of the Nigerian people by the NNPC. The NNPC that is supposed to superintend over the 4 refineries that we have. Even the Kaduna refinery, the Warri refinery, and the Port Harcourt refinery, together with LMA and all of that. Do you know that it takes only $2.65 billion out of that $2.8 billion? It takes $2.65 billion to fix Warri and Port Harcourt refinery that are already in comatose. Those moribund refineries. It just takes $2.65 billion to fix it. Why not fix these refineries and let these refineries work? But rather, they chose to buy share in Dangote because of this organized crime. And let me tell you something. Before the immediate past president left office, few days to his leaving office, they hurriedly went to commission a refinery that is 80% completed. That refinery will begin production by January 2024. So why the hurry? That is to tell you that these individuals are not interested in the interest of the common man, how they live. They already arranged their way in the manner at which they begin to reap from the Dangote refineries.
All right, that's an interesting way to break it down there. But I'll come back to you. Right now, I want to get your thoughts now on some stakeholders, the NLC particularly. There's been mixed reactions to their involvement in this. A lot of people say, well, you are hypocrites. You supported a candidate who was going to remove subsidy. Now you are against subsidy. You know, so what do you make of their involvement in this, and you know, them wanting to actually stage a protest and then pulling out in the last minute and saying that they're negotiating? That's aside. And the second part is, as someone who is from Rivers State, how does this policy affect oil producing states in any way? We had the issue of oil theft constantly being talked about. Does this have any impact at all in how that is going on?
I think looking at the whole scenario going on in the country, it's a thing of pity. It's regrettable that a country as Nigeria, when one product from petroleum alone can solve her problems, when one singular extract from petroleum product can become a major stay in our economy and will not have issues. We have all of this together, and we are still suffering as a people. Now, we've been very marginalized as a people, and it's always very laughable that everything about fuel scarcity, queues all over the country will always start from our state or in our region. Meanwhile, it's not supposed to be so. You know, it's very laughable that they have spent so much amount of money in the name of, from 2010 till today, they have spent over 11 trillion in, you know, reestablishing or remodeling our refineries, and it's not working. So this is a problem of systematic, programmed corruption. It's an organized crime against the people of Nigeria, and it has, you know, it will continue to elude complaints. And
sorry to cut in there. When the argument is put this way, that is an organized crime against the people of Nigeria, one might wonder, especially candidates who were against removal of subsidy, that if it is against the common people, why are the common people suffering now that it has been taken away?
I don't think there was not all the candidates agreed to remove subsidy.
Actually, one of the candidates has been pretty vocal during this period that he was never.
And who is that?
The SDP candidate is.
I think he's not even the top three. He's not even the top three. He wants to use that to, you know, to come to limelight because of the strength of his party. But we are not here to discuss all of that.
But let's talk about that argument. When people say, if the common man is suffering, does that not mean the policy favors the common man?
No, the thing there is the policy removal of subsidy is one of the best things that will happen to Nigeria, because just like he also said, this whole thing called subsidy is a crime because it's not working for Nigerians. It's almost like we are using our own hard-earned resources that is not able to cater for our own needs, to cater for the generality of West Africa. Looking at the protests in Cameroon and some other ripple effect in other neighboring countries associated with that. You could hear our president say that if anybody wants to harm him when he leaves office, that Niger Republic is going to fight for him. Why would they not fight for him? Because these are some of the issues that are under the carpet that is not exposed to the public. You know, these countries are major beneficiaries. You know, this seems like it's a cartel, and that's one of the most powerful cartel in this country, because of the benefit and because of the shortcuts they have and all of that for themselves. It is one of the strongest institutions in Nigeria. No, it surprise you that no president, no leadership of this country have ever thought of, okay, if they cannot fix our refineries, why can't they give license to other people to come into the market? The system is well put together such that a common man or the private sector is not allowed to come in. They are the same people that said, okay, Osibanjo made an attempt to say, let the headquarters of these IOCs relocate to where they are doing their operations, and let licenses be given to people to build modular refineries, so that it can also support the supply. You know, and if we have excess supply, I don't think this price surge will always come in. I'm looking at the presidential statement and the rest of other things. Now we have said that the president, the outgone president, President Buhari, have said that subsidy is going to be terminated at such a time. And you are just coming to make a statement without any form of a committee, a tripartite committee, or any form of machinery to oversee the process of implementation, noting that once this is done, XYZ parameters is going to unfold into the market and is going to cause XYZ issues. And if this happens, this is what we are going to do to cushion the effect here. And like, it will surprise you that up till now, we don't have government buses running on the streets to help civil servants. That's even in the formal sector. What about the informal sector? In what way are you trying to give us some palliatives? And I will also call state government, because this thing is not, it should not be left alone for the federal government to handle. Like there in Rivers State, I will personally call on the governor of Rivers State, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, to look as a matter of priority, look into the transportation sector, where he can also provide logistic buses for civil servants and major highways on the street to cut. These are the things, if you do, we also in a way reduce the effect, because everything, we know that our rail lines are not perfectly working. So this is one point we're supposed to fall back to. It will be easier for government to subsidize that sector and thereby cutting down on the people that will begin to assess for privately for, you know, to go about their normal endeavors. But for us in Rivers State, it's not going down well with us, because how many years down the line, no company, no IOC have relocated their headquarters to the region. That's one. It means that the people are not even employed, despite the contribution they are giving to the center. Away from that, we also expect that licenses should be given to people to come into the sector. If we have 2 or 3 modular refineries operational in the region, it will cushion the effect. It can also affect the price, because if I am producing and I'm selling at a particular price, it brings competition. And when competition comes into the market, there is one sector, the telecommunication sector, that everybody is actually looking at today as one of the they've allowed the price of demand and fall to affect the system, and we are now operating at the barest minimum. Even with the influx of other indices affecting the market, it still remains stable. So these things can actually be achieved in the petroleum sector.
All right, very quickly, your comments on the involvement of NLC. Are they going about this the right way?
I think negotiation is very important. It's not a thing we cannot war against ourselves, but it's a procedure. But you also look at what is happening. The federal government has gone to court to take an injunction restraining them from protest. So if they still go ahead with it, 2 wrongs cannot make a right. In as much as they supported a candidate that wanted removal of subsidy, and that now they are coming to say the subsidy removal is faulty. They are not. It's still the same message. What they are asking of, and this is what Nigerians are asking of: how did you remove this subsidy? The methodology, the processes. Because you cannot just, okay, for example, you want to build this station. You cannot just put the foundation on the ground and begin to put the roof. No, it has to go from process to process. And these processes has a lot of impact on the system. That's what they are saying. And I think they are on the right path.
All right, that's fair enough. But now let's talk about the benefits of subsidy. Now, the issue is when you are talking to the average Nigerian out there, all he knows is that his transportation was 200 naira and now it's 500 naira. He knows that where he normally buys certain things, prices have gone up. Services, these days, if you try ride-hailing services, when the price shows there, they will call you and tell you, I can't go for that price. And you have to negotiate. So it's something that the price is already there. So the point is, it makes it a bit difficult to explain that this is what you are going to get because of this hardship you are going through. So I'd like to hear from you, Mr. Lucky. How do you think it can be explained to the average Nigerian that there are actually benefits from this thing? Because as we stand now, like some people will say, it has become, subsidy removal has become the popular policy. But a lot of people don't even know why. They just know that we're going to suffer, and they said we will benefit it later. So I don't know if you can shed more light on that. How do you think this actually turns out well for Nigerians, the average Nigerian out there?
Yeah, Amadin, thank you. You see, let us put these things on record very straight. You see, why is it that in this country, any government that comes on board, the first thing as a priority such government embarks on is to tamper with our pump price? Is there something there that they can see that we, the electorate or the citizens, are not seeing? Every government that comes on board, and you can imagine from 195, 197, 200, straight to 500 and something naira. I mean, there is nothing you can explain to the Nigerian masses that will make them take or pinch their tent with the government, because the government didn't put their interest on the line before embarking on this very flagrant draconian style of removing subsidy. One of the reasons why I must give it to the candidate of the Labour Party and that of the SDP, in as much as majority of these candidates all said they were going to remove subsidy, they didn't say they were going to do it in a draconian manner, in a Gestapo manner. What this government have done, they decided to put the cart before the horse. And the consequential effect, I must tell you, we have the prognostical happenings that may happen in the next coming days. You asked my comrade a question. Permit me to say this. The NLC, the TUC, these are labor unions. They proposed a date for protest, to protest the pump price, the arbitrary high cost and increment of petrol price in the country. And all of a sudden, the same federal government that called them for dialogue went behind the scene to obtain a black market injunction to restrain Nigerians of exercising their constitutional rights. I want to seize this opportunity to tell the government of the day, you think you have succeeded in manacling the TUC and the NLC, but you have the civil society organizations to contend with. We are mobilizing, and in the coming weeks we are going to hit the streets of Nigeria. It's not going to be the seat of power alone. We have always been on the streets. That is our new home. We are going to fight this to stand still. The pump price must be reversed while negotiations continue. The removal of subsidy, beautiful. We are not against it. But the palliative measures must be on ground. The issue of bringing CMA, most of these buses to cushion the effect, that's not what we are after. In 2012, I could remember almost 16 billion naira was expended for buses to cushion the effect. They were distributed to managers like ROTM, NUROTW, ABC Transport, and the host of you. Where are those buses today? How were they managed? Who were in charge of those buses? The same thing will happen. The other day, that we are building, the current governor of Ogun State, led a delegation to the current president that they were in solidarity with the government, that they wish to donate 100 buses to cushion the effect. How is it only civil servants that are in this country? How many civil servants? What's the workforce that we have in this country? What happens to our farmers, our market women, students? What happens to them? How do you cushion their effects? TUC proposing a wage of 200,000 naira. I mean, what are you talking about? Even the 30,000 naira that was raised, most states are unable to pay. So you want to even raise food inflation, market inflation, and the host of it. And this government will not even succumb to that. So going to obtain, using the judiciary to obtain the constitutional rights of Nigerians, the civil society organization, which is my primary constituency, we are mobilizing. We are going to resist this illegality. We are going to resist this evil that has been foisted, this penury that has been foisted on the Nigerian people, the Nigerian people cannot continue to be a beneficiary of the pitfall of government policies.
All right, so sorry to cut you short there, but we're running out of time now. So I want to get closing statements from the both of you. Now, what is your message to Nigerians, the people suffering the brunt of this policy? What do you have to say to them in this moment? While issues are still being resolved, the NLC says they still have June 19 to decide on issues. The CSOs are saying they are working on greasing the streets. So what are you saying to the average Nigerian out there in a matter of minutes?
Yes, my closing remark to Nigerians out there is that they should remain peaceful, even when they come out to join us on the streets to protest this draconian policy of government in terms of the hardship that has been visited upon the Nigerian masses. They should be peaceful. We're mobilizing ourselves in our thousands to dash to the street. If you follow the trajectory of our protests all through after the presidential election, you will see how coordinated we've been, how peaceful we've been. So we will continue on that trajectory. And the Nigerian people should know this. Don't be afraid to come out and protest for your rights. We are saying to the NLC and the TUC, when you are on the negotiation table with the federal government, try in as much as possible to put the Nigerian workers, the Nigerian masses, first before any other interest. Because we are watching, we continue to work in synergy. But by the time we discover that there are some administrative chicanery or subterfuge that takes place within the table of discussion, at that point, we, the civil society organization, will take the onion, will take the responsibility from that moment to protest on behalf of the Nigerian people peacefully, to demand for the reversion of the pump price, while government find a way of cushioning the effects of the subsidy removal consequences that has been bedeviled on the Nigerian people.
All right, thank you, Mr. Loki. Let's get your final remarks there to the Nigerian people.
Well, I want to say that mine is a message of hope for Nigerians and Nigerian youth. There are very integral activities that have taken place in Nigeria between the last administration and now, which is the NSAS protests and the protest vote during the last election. These two activities have shown very clearly that there is hope and that no elected person, whoever is having an instrument of power in the country, can just sweep the audible voice of Nigerians under the carpet. I want Nigerians to keep faith, to keep hope alive, because I know that this current administration knows the impact of youth participation, especially with what we had in the NSAS protests and the just concluded election. If we continually push, if we continually speak against the ills in our society, I believe that one day, in no distant time, Nigeria will be a place where we all live to remember. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bani. Thank you so much, Mr. Obiyan, for coming and for sharing your thoughts today. Hope to have you back sometime soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's all we take on this segment of the Polity. We'll go on a short break where we return to be joined by another set of guests to analyze further and shine more light on the first week, or so to speak, of President Tinubu's administration. Stay with us. We'll be right back.